Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Clarity and Confidence TV. I am so excited to introduce you to Elena Sonnino. She is a life coach and a speaker, and she has an amazing message for you today, especially as we're kicking off the brand new year. So put all your distractions aside, because this is something that you're going to want to listen to, and this next 20 to 30 minutes will set you up for everything that you need to be successful this year. So Elena, I'm going to have you just go ahead and introduce yourself and just tell us, what do you do? Who do you work with? And tell us all the things. Tell us about your family, your pets, whatever you want people to know.
Oh my goodness, Kelly, thank you so much. That's a lot to live up to. I think I can do it. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm a life coach and speaker. I help women get out of survival mode, get out of their own way, stop feeling depleted, stop questioning their inner strength so that they can thrive with more curiosity, more purpose, and delight, so that they can be the sunrise in their pocket. They can be the walking embodiment of that thing that they've always been waiting for, but it's already within them. I have been really lucky on most days to be the mom of a now 16-year-old.
Yeah.
So a lot of my life coaching lessons are based on, my experience as a coach, but also my experiences in life. I'm a cancer survivor. I was a classroom teacher for 12 years, moving from that, having a daughter, getting divorced, all those things that make us real. I tend to think of myself as very real. And the rest of my home is filled out with a 4-year-old Labradoodle who also teaches me a lot of lessons on a daily basis about delight and determination.
Yeah, exactly.
Going up to the counter and like, whoop. And my husband, we've been married 10 and a half years.
Aww,
so
that's
the
wonderful.
Story for another time, all the engagement rings and wedding dresses that I've had in the past, but second wedding, 10 and a half years,
goodness,
and it's the one.
We're going to have a whole separate episode of just 27 dresses, like the movie. I love it. Okay, so I want to get into some of the confidence questions, but you have a podcast called Sunrise in Your Pocket, and you use the term sunrise in your pocket. So say more about that. What is sunrise in your pocket?
So sunrise in your pocket is the idea that we have inner strength and wisdom everywhere we go, every step we take. And the reminder is that the sun rises every single day. Though I was speaking to a group once, and a woman who apparently had a scientific background said to me, actually, the sun doesn't rise. And I was like, okay, I taught third grade science. I know, but for the point of today, the sun rises. And yet on some days, it's really big and bold, colorful. Other days we can't see it at all. And on other days in between, it's subtle, right? So that idea that we trust, we have faith in the fact that the sun is rising, that it's there. So too can we have faith that we have this inner clarity, this inner strength, this inner wisdom, this inner teacher, whatever you want to call it, intuition within us. And maybe, just maybe, if we got out of our own way and we tapped into that a little bit more often, we could live with more ease, more purpose, more fulfillment, and more delight.
Yes.
I love delight.
I know. We're going to talk more about delight and hot dams. And so if the word delight or hot dam intrigues you, then you can stick with us. So, and I love that. I love a quote by Pema Chodron who says, you are the sky, everything else is just the weather. And so when I think about a sunrise, like you said, the sunrise is always there. Sometimes the weather clouds it, but the weather is so temporary. And I think with everything that we've been through, I think that's such a reminder to us that everything is temporary.
It is. And that, it's a chance to reawaken, right? Mm-hmm. Each day we get to tap into that aliveness, that awakeness. And the other thing about sunrise that I like, as opposed to sunset, I like sunsets too, don't get me wrong. I'm not anti-sunset. But to me, sunrise, there's so much curiosity. Right? We have no idea what the clouds are going to look like and what colors they're going to make. And there's just that sense because it starts from darkness. Mm-hmm. Whereas sunset, we kind of know what it might be like based on the day. And right, we have more anticipation of what it might be like. To me, sunset or sunrise is totally about aliveness, right? We have no idea what we're in for. And that's part of the excitement.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay. So talk to me more about what confidence means to you. So when you talk with your clients or you just, work through this in yourself, what does that look like for you?
Confidence to me is being aligned with my truest self. with my core values and knowing that I am deeply rooted in those truest parts of me, and that moving forward and the process is how I get to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it is that alignment, it's that centering, it's that rooting, and it's knowing that just simply taking a step along the journey is the journey. That's the practice. So it's a feeling, it's an embodiment. Sometimes it means wearing leopard print. This year it's been all about wearing leopard print, right? And it's something that I access through in my heart, right? It's within me. I just have to choose it. So it's that embodiment. It's also a choice.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? And it's that decision to quiet all the noise and be true to the truest parts of me and know that I can't go wrong.
Right.
Just be unapologetic about that. And I might learn some things along the way. It might not be the thing that I thought it was going to, but not to be my own best friend.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? That to me is also that confidence aspect of, okay, just be unapologetically me. That doesn't mean being mean to people.
Right.
I can still be empathetic and sensitive to other people, but how do I tap into those truest parts of me and move forward?
Exactly. Because the truest parts of you will always be honest, gentle, merciful, kind. That's who we are created to be. And I love talking about core values. And you and I have had this conversation that we talk with our clients a lot about core values, but sometimes because core values aren't always flashy or sexy, sometimes people can kind of be like, oh yeah, it's core values. But I would love to hear how you embody and claim your core values and how that helps you step into your power, live with more confidence, and do some of the things that you want to do, or even help your clients do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So core values has been this huge revelation for me. A mentor introduced it to me back in, I don't know, let's say 2015, 16. And I remember thinking, yeah, it's important. And I don't think I realized how much into the last few years, because I think sometimes it's like throwing spaghetti at the wall, right? There are lots of things that we aspire to be, but when we can really figure out those 3 to 5 things that I think about it as, without which we're kind of not ourselves. We're slightly, something's off, right? We may not know exactly what it is, but when we tap into those things in some way to nurture and nourish them as part of our intention for the week or our goals, right? So my core values are commitment, freedom, curiosity, and delight, which most people are like, oh yeah, of course. Yeah. But it's funny because at first, when I first did my core values work years ago, curiosity wasn't on the list. And I was going through this process, and what I do on a regular basis, and I invite my clients to do, is to think about your goal, right? Or your intention, however you want to kind of phrase it. And if it's a destination driven, if it's outcome driven, okay, but then how do you want to feel? And then how can you nurture that feeling? How do you cultivate that feeling fueled by your core values? So for me, commitment means showing up for my daily practices, letting that fuel my thriving, being committed to my goals, being committed to myself, right?
I love that.
Freedom is the belief that I have everything to gain by doing the thing, by showing up, by being courageous, getting out of my own way. Curiosity is leading with the sense of wonder and curiosity of, I wonder what might happen if, rather than head down, tunnel vision kind of piece, because that's also my kryptonite. The opposite of curiosity is where I get into big, huge trouble and I go down the rabbit hole, exactly. Right? And delight is what it sounds like, right? Where can so one of my practices is to track delight. So unexpected delight, little moments of delight, it could be cuddling with my teenager, cuddling with a dog in the morning, right? A really great cup of tea, a sunrise. It could be something bigger, but it's that intentional tending to those 4 core values that helps me stay rooted and true to myself and know that I'm not doing things because somebody else said I should.
Exactly. That last line is so key, because, when I'm working with women, and this is something I had to discover for myself. So I also had kind of an aha core values revelation about 2016, that the reason my life was not going the way I wanted it to was because, well, one, I just kind of thought that everybody shared my core values. Unconsciously, I thought this, right? And then secondly, it's like, oh my gosh. And everybody knows I love Hamilton. And so I'll borrow the line from Hamilton, which is, if you don't stand for something, then what will you fall for? And for me, core values, and like, even like you were describing, when you know what you stand for, it gives you the gift of discernment, which is knowing the difference between what looks right on the surface or on social media or on paper and what is right.
Yes.
I love
So
that.
it's funny you mentioned discernment, because at first, when I first did this exercise, and I talk about with my clients, they ask me, well, can your core values change? And I don't think they change. I think our levels of understanding around them
Mhm.
deepen. And so a new word might emerge. So when I first did it, discernment was I thought was one of my core values. And what I really realized was it's the freedom to be able to discern. So that's how I got to freedom, because freedom to me is that sense of expansion. It's that sense of having everything to gain, but it's also, and Enneagram is another conversation, but
Yeah.
since I've learned from your tutelage that I am an Enneagram 8, right,
Yeah.
it makes perfect sense that I don't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
I don't like being put in a box. And it's also, if I look at the things where I've been most off in my life, prior to getting divorced the first time, well, the only time. I'm like, I've had fallen engagements, but not, I'm like, divorced once. But if I think about that relationship,
Mhm.
so much of what was in contrast was that sense of freedom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So we both had like this core values revelation in 2016. And so I want you to talk about what you were doing in a previous life. So it may surprise people to learn that you were a school teacher. I know you kind of
I
mentioned that,
was.
but say more about just, you were a school teacher, and I think a lot of women listening here, whether you're thinking of making a leap to entrepreneurship, or I know a lot of women are like, am I in the right career? Is this the company I want to work for? I thought I'd be here forever. What was the moment where you discovered that you were like, maybe I'm not meant to be a teacher? Like,
Yeah.
talk to me about that moment. And then I also want to hear, how did you have the courage to say goodbye and make the leap?
So, yes, I thought when I was in my 20s, the two things I wanted most in the world were to be a mom and to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
End of story, right? I did both.
Good job. Yeah.
So, hooray. And I loved teaching. I taught first and second grade. I moved to third grade. I was then a resource teacher, kindergarten through sixth. I worked with my staff. I worked with parents. I loved that. But in about 2000, well, I was getting remarried in 2010. So let's call it 2008. I started blogging because I could. I remember I was on the couch. My daughter had strep throat, so I had a sub for the day, and I was planning my second wedding. And I decided it was time to start telling the story, kind of me. And it was the time of mom blogging. And so I started doing that for fun. It was a hobby,
Mm-hmm.
right? And my family got really used to me taking pictures. But what was interesting about it was it connected to what I loved helping my students do, which was to be independent thinkers and to be creative and to have thoughts, right? To not, my teaching was never stand up in front of the classroom and give you information. It was about asking you great questions. And if you didn't know an answer, you got to phone a friend in
Yeah.
the classroom, right? Pretend from like this Who Wants to Be a Millionaire
Right.
game or whatever
Right.
that game was, right? But then the student had to give me the answer back in their own answers, right? So they would get the answer from somebody, and then and that to me was always the crux of what I did. And as I was both teaching and writing, I realized that I wasn't, the day to day of the teaching isn't what lit me up. What lit me up was having those interactive conversations with my students, was helping parents see the process of their students' education rather than just focusing on which high school or college they were going to go to. It was helping struggling teachers connect to their practices again and coming back to what was most important. And so it was these conversations that were happening. And so I started to explore, well, what would happen if I left? At that point, I was nationally board certified. I had a master's.
Mm-hmm.
I was newly remarried. My husband had a spreadsheet for everything. I was in a pretty secure place to have the life that on paper we thought we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, it wasn't getting me up with the same enthusiasm and exuberance that it did when I started. And over time, my body also was starting to have different things, right? I'm not sure I ever really fully burned out, like, you hear some people really do, but there were enough things that I just started wondering, and I started kind of putting it out there. I wonder what would happen. And in our county, I had the great opportunity to take a year of leave of absence.
Oh, wow.
So but it was really fascinating because I thought about my work as it was a little bit like golden handcuffs, right? I had a salary that for a teacher wasn't bad. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, was pretty decent. I was a leader in my building, right? The parents loved me. I mean, it was
Yeah.
kind of golden. I had a
Yeah.
job
I
as a
talk to my
resource
clients a
teacher.
lot. They know about the corporate golden handcuffs, the money,
Yeah,
the salary, the security, all the things.
right?
Yes.
All the things. I was a leader. I was getting to speak. All the things. I was writing curriculum, and yet I was having fun doing the blogging and doing this other type of thing, but I also was really, really curious. And curiosity, there's a reason that I realized it was a core value. Because when I start thinking, well, I wonder what would happen if, and not having any expectation of the outcome, when it's truly like I almost can't stop it if I tried,
Yeah.
being pulled, I have to explore it. So it took several months of conversation with my then, new husband,
Yeah.
and he, he's an engineer. So literally, when I say we have a spreadsheet for everything, we really have a spreadsheet for everything.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I was able to take this leave of absence, and that was a great safety net.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I wasn't just throwing everything, burning it all down. It was a safety net of knowing that if I wanted to, I could go back, but I knew I wasn't going to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? It was okay. That was really to appease my husband.
Yeah. Right. Right.
In my mind, once I make a decision, I'm all in, and I should just make that, like, do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I did. And so in between teaching and coaching, I blogged and I did social media consulting and digital media consulting and wrote curriculum for 3 or 4 years. But it's interesting because I look at that entire journey and it's what led me directly to coaching,
Yeah.
right? It's realizing where my voice wanted to be, what was important about that voice, what were the things that I stood for and believed in. And I was literally in Jackson Hole, Wyoming for a half marathon, and which turned to a weekend of wanting to paraglide. So much randomness, all focused on curiosity. And a massage therapist said to me, "Have you ever thought about being a life coach?" And I remember saying, "As in for me or for me?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said, "No, as in," and I had, because to me it seemed like a very natural, it's what I always did,
Yeah.
even as a teacher.
Oh, totally. You're totally a life coach for third graders.
It's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I asked great questions and I helped them find their own answers. And back to school night, it was like, bring the parents in, give them an experience, right?
Yeah.
Let them see the perspective. It just was, so to me, it was, I got all the training that I needed in terms of, creating environments where people feel safe and nurtured and nourished and challenged,
Mm-hmm.
where I could learn to lead groups of all different ages,
Yeah.
right? It gave me those best practices, which now when I have to run a Zoom retreat, like, well, we're going to be in our body and we're going to move and you're going to have pair time and individual. So all of those best practices
Mm-hmm.
that I was so good at doing helped me then now. So in terms of how did I decide, my heart made the decision before my brain did, and I had no choice but to follow it. I had the safety net, which was a great, great, opportunity, but it was really an amazing moment when I remember signing that resignation letter. It
Yeah.
was, oh,
I bet. So you just glossed over a million small courageous
I know,
decisions. So we're
I
going
know.
to go back and revisit some of those. So, because if we're listening, it's like, okay, so she left teaching, she took a sabbatical, she did social media consulting, and she's sharing all this on a blog, and she was paragliding. So I want you to go back and tell us, what was one of the most courageous decisions? And this could be personally and professionally. What was one of the most courageous decisions you've ever had to make in your life or career? How did you do it?
So the first was deciding to ask for a divorce from my first husband.
Mm-hmm.
Right. My daughter is 16. I met my ex-husband in 2001. We were training for our first marathon and we met training for that. I had, I was a cancer survivor, and part of my story is that I was told I would never be able to have children. And so we met running, and I can connect the dots between having Samantha and being sick through her dad. And yet I didn't want the version of a relationship that we had define love for her as she grew up. Right? We were friends. And he gave me her, and we have a really fabulous, on most days, relationship all these years later, right? We really do a good job co-parenting. But asking for that and saying I need this, because I wasn't tapping into any of my truest self. And I wouldn't have taken any of these steps. I would still be a third grade teacher.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right? So doing that and getting out of my head of being the one who failed, the one who left, right? What am I going to be doing to my daughter? That to me was probably the most courageous thing that I've ever done. I think the second is deciding to go paragliding, not because I was afraid of heights, but because I'm not, but it was so random.
Yeah.
And yet if I think back, there was the courage almost wasn't in the act of doing it, but in the allowing of the vastness that it opened up between when I decided from watching. I mean, we were having breakfast our first morning in Jackson Hole, and the Grand Tetons are to my right, and there are, the ski slopes in the village there, and it's summer. And instead of looking at the Grand Tetons, I'm looking at these parachutes coming down from the mountain.
Yeah.
Right. But it was an allowing of something bigger than me to touch my heart.
Yeah. And you said a word called vastness. And what I often experience, and again, tell me where I'm wrong or where you've experienced it differently. It's not so much the action that scares people, like a future action or a future role or a future thing that they get to, because that's concrete, that's on the other side. What I find in my own personal experience as well is the vastness of the unknown, like the vastness of that gap, and what I often call liminal space, it's that space in between, is the most horrifying part of all of it.
Yes, right. And if I look back to the other many courageous steps, right, which were big, leaving teaching, even saying yes to making the investment to step into life coach training, all of those things that were so uncertain, and I had no roadmap for them.
Right.
There was no specific way to do it. And that's the piece that got me through of just opening up to that vastness. And so the paragliding was just there was an allowing that I feel like was courageous between the decision to be interested in it, to be curious about it, claiming that I wanted to do it, and then letting that move through me and become a part of me.
Yeah. How did your values serve as a guidepost? Because I think sometimes in vastness, when we have no roadmap, like you said, one of the things that can help guide us is, well, how would we move through this in alignment with our values? How did your values guide you through that liminal space, that vastness, that ambiguity? I think that's what women really struggle with.
Yeah. To me, it's the staying in a place of curiosity. So staying in a place of releasing expectations, right? So to me, curiosity, the opposite of that is the expectation. And so, and I practice releasing expectations on a daily basis. In fact, I just ordered a new candle to help, right? Because I know that they kind of creep up on me in little ways. And so noticing where I was starting to expect a specific outcome, where I was getting really grippy about the way something had to be, or details, because those are another thing that get into my way. I'm a quick start. I like to go all in, and then I gather all my research, but I can get stuck there if I'm not careful. And so really staying in curiosity and exploring it from okay, what happens if I do this, right? And then the freedom value of saying, I have everything to gain. Just try, right? No one else is defining my success other than me.
Mm-hmm.
maybe my husband's spreadsheet, but now it's my spreadsheet.
I love it.
Now I've taken that, right? Commitment. So really just knowing who I am and what I'm about, and tending, being committed to those practices and to just showing up and the delight, right? So in all of those vastness, in those moments of opportunity, kind of releasing the shoulds, the expectations of others, even of my parents, right? I was also, I mentioned I ran the marathon and I ran 4 more, but I stopped because it became so much about the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, right, realigning with the core values was, okay, how can I stay committed to taking care of this truest self, me? And what is that going to look like? Because that's going to help me fuel my body and fuel my thriving so that then I can show up in these moments of uncertainty. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah. I want to have you share your message about claiming it. Because I think, 2020, I don't think 2020 turned out like anybody planned. And if it did, like, go buy a lottery ticket. Because congratulations. So, really, we've talked a lot about uncertainty. We've talked a lot about vastness. And I don't think just because the calendar year, if you're listening to this at the first run when it's live at the beginning of the year, just because we flipped our calendars doesn't mean like it's magically changed. But what you can do is claim what you want. And so I would love for you just to share your message. What is your message to women about claiming it and bringing in delight and even a little bit of hot damn? Say more.
So to me, claiming it it's an opportunity that we give ourselves, right? I remember when Samantha was just born and I was going back to school to teach, and she was at an in-home provider. And we did some like a practice week, right, before it was the real deal.
That's the real week.
And I would bring her, and then I would have 3 hours to myself. And I had no idea what to do with those 3 hours.
Yeah.
Right. I had no idea what I wanted to do, what would feel good. So that was this really important reminder of, we get to name how we want to feel, and we get to claim the path to do that. Mm-hmm. And even if it seems silly, right? Especially if it feels silly and important, right? And if it comes from this place within us that is ours, as opposed to, I can try claiming something that, somebody else suggests, but until I put my own spin on it. So this fall, I'm wearing leopard print, and I'm wearing this particular leopard print jacket because this was my big example of claiming it. We watched, and it was just such a little thing. Mm-hmm. I was watching The Politician, a show with my family, and one of the characters in the 2nd season has this amazing leopard print jacket. I've not been a huge leopard print wearer prior to 2020, but something about the boldness of it this year became just part of who I was, to the point that I had an experiment where I spent a week thinking, I wonder how many things I can say hot damn about.
Yeah.
Hot damn, also not a phrase I'd ever really said.
Yeah.
But I kind of went around looking at, all right, I think this is a hot damn moment. Hot damn, I did that.
Yeah.
Hot damn, look at this, right? So this leopard print jacket comes on the show, and I remember thinking, I want that leopard print jacket. Yeah. But it wasn't because I wanted the jacket. It was a feeling that when I saw that jacket came alive in me. And so we Googled, we did the thing. I was not the only person that was interested in this particular jacket. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't find it, right? It wasn't sold anywhere, blah, 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 blah. Weeks later, I was walking through a small town on my way to something. And I remember thinking, I just want to go be curious and take a walk and do some window shopping. COVID times, I haven't done a whole lot of shopping in stores, right? So I wasn't planning to go on in. I come across this little boutique that has this and another coat that looks identical to that one from the show. And I thought, well, I have to go in and try it on, right? None of the worries about, I had my mask, none of the judgments were getting in my head. I just went in and tried it on, and it was pretty awesome. Yeah. But something about it, and we had this conversation, and then the saleswoman, who was lovely, comes up and says, this one's a little shorter, the coloring's a little different, but just try it on. Kelli, I put one sleeve on, and I was like, this is my jacket. I walked out of the store with it on. It was like I was a little girl buying shoes who wanted to wear them out of the store. And that, to me, is the idea of claiming it, right? Letting a feeling becomes so important that you can't not claim it. And if you do, you're not being true to yourself, right? And again, it seems so silly to be talking about a leopard print jacket, but it applies in our work lives, it applies in our families,
Right.
it applies in how we talk to our bodies, right? How is it that you want to feel? Name it, know what that is, and then claim that part of you. Let it be a thing unapologetically. My daughter, grimaces every time I'm wearing leopard print. I'm wearing two types of leopard print today. My jacket and my shoes have leopard print on it.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah.
right. And just being unapologetic about it.
Yeah, it's just a metaphor. Like your jacket's just a metaphor. Well, you have a jacket. Someone else might have a pair of shoes or pants or lipstick or even just a purse that they carry. Or maybe it's something that sits on their desk that just makes them feel the way they want to feel.
Yeah.
So
Song.
What advice would you, a song. What advice would you give women thinking about this year? Okay, so you're talking to them about claim the feeling. Why bother? What does it help them do? Why should they claim a feeling? What would it help them do? And then what are their next steps? Okay, so you've claimed your feeling. Then what? Like, what's your now what, so what?
Yeah. So to me, if we don't claim the feeling, we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to step into our truest potential.
Yeah.
And to embody that sunrise in your pocket. Because you have feelings, you have desires, you have dreams. And if we don't listen to that part of us, we're not listening to the sunrise in your pocket, to that inner teacher. So that's the why. And when you do, it doesn't matter what the outcome is. You are giving yourself an opportunity to be who you're meant to be. And at that point, unlimited possibilities are available, right? The world, literally, all the vastness opens up. And so how do you get to that place, right? There's the listening. So to name it, I think, is often the hardest part, to give yourself permission to want something.
Yes.
Maybe even if it doesn't make any sense, right? And then the claiming it. So how do you claim it? To me, it's a daily practice of choosing we have to practice feeling this way sometimes, right? So to me, when I put on the leopard print jacket, it helps me remember, right? Boldness, curiosity, delight. I am also a huge fan of music. I have playlists. So, old school days of cassette tapes for our friends, or, mixed tapes, right? I spent a lot of hours doing that. I make those on Spotify now.
Yeah.
So whenever I claim a feeling that I want to embody, I create an entire playlist and then I sing it out loud. In fact, just this morning I was thinking, I haven't sung out loud in a day or two. And that goes to, right, several of my core values: commitment, showing, like, knowing the practices that help me do those things. So it's that then practicing feeling it in small ways, right? Singing a song, visualizing, I know we've talked about that, whether it's a vision board or writing it down. And the other thing that I think is important is telling other people.
That's the scariest one. That's one of the hardest coaching questions I think I give my clients when they talk about their big dreams. They said, so who have you told about this? And they're like, you. That's it. Maybe their partner. That is the hardest part. So what has claiming this feeling, what results has this given you?
It has made me realize that thriving is everywhere, right? So in my business, in my life, in my body, it reconnected me. I think this particular claiming this year, with all of the uncertainty, I reclaimed the idea that all of my thriving, all of this freedom starts in my body. And so while, everyone was talking about all the things of 2020 and gaining all the weight, I'm like, I'm stronger than I ever have been.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's one thing. In my body, I have this different relationship with myself and with that inner teacher. The other thing is my business has taken off in ways that I couldn't have even planned. And the women that I'm getting to work with, what I'm seeing is this ripple effect of the energy, right? Which is what I had always envisioned. I always thought that my work would be shared from friend to friend, and it would be like ripples, being created. And that's what's happened. And so that sense of pride,
Mm-hmm.
that sense of, oh my goodness, what if this is just the beginning?
Yeah.
What if more is possible? Not that, being perpetually unsatisfied, not kind of that place of what else might be possible, but the sense of curiosity of, huh,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what happens if I continue to embody this.
Exactly. I always like to say that success loves clarity. In fact, you probably can't see it, but it's written on my board right up there. And I talk about that a lot with my clients. So, like, claiming your feeling and then being really clear about how you want to feel and what it is you want. And then, as you said, the scariest part of all, telling someone about it. But when you can be really clear about what you want, like, success loves that clarity. And why does it love that? Is because the energy ripples. People talk about it. People say, oh, I know someone who needs that or does that. And whether you're running your own business or whether you're in corporate America, like, being very clear about what you want to create, claiming how you want to feel, like, that is contagious. And we all know what contagion looks like. And so I firmly believe, like, just like you said, that claiming it, that feeling it and being clear about it, like, you can't help but be successful because it creates this energy around you.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I love about it when I step into that sense of claiming is that I then get to practice feeling it all the time, not just at the end of what I thought would be,
Right.
the X, Y, or Z. And so it becomes this reminder of, ooh, look, I can find it here and here and here. And, I think it is interesting when we tell other people, right? We have to be really strong in what we're claiming
Mm-hmm.
because the voices of others.
Mm-hmm.
So I had decided that when I reached my goals for this quarter, I was going to take my family away to the beach the week after New Year's. And my husband was like, why? Why do we want to go to the beach in the winter? Why exactly? And I was going to bring my parents and all these things and all the whys. And I went, this is important to me. I'm taking myself if none of you want to come.
Yeah.
But because I could feel that sense
Mm-hmm.
of just, being there and watching the seagulls and the ocean and kind of like arms wide open and
Mm-hmm.
almost dancing on the beach, which, my retired neurosurgeon dad isn't going to dance on the beach, and my engineer husband isn't going to dance on the beach. My 16-year-old might.
Yeah. Yeah.
My dog might, right? But so it's knowing that it doesn't matter if anybody else agrees.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start telling other people, it becomes it's like an announcement. You don't need anybody else's validation for it.
And if you're following in your true self, you will likely find that maybe most people won't agree. And not that it's a harsh disagreement or that you're doing something wrong. It's just that it might feel completely unique to you and counterintuitive to most.
Yeah, right. And they just might question it. And I would look at the questions as opportunities for clarity,
Exactly.
right? Rather than getting frustrated, look at the questions and especially the questions that really rub you the wrong way and are like, wow, they shouldn't be asking me that. Those are the questions that then I like to mirror back to myself and say, where might I be asking myself that question? Where might I have that twinge of doubt that I could get a little bit clearer on?
That's a
Right. So
great
just,
one-liner. Look at questions as an opportunity for clarity. That's good. I love
yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
talk to me about, what are 3 of your favorite confidence building practices? We already
So
know one. So I want you to give me 3 more. One is getting into that feeling, right? Okay, so that's one. I
it
absolutely
is.
believe that that's one. So what are some others? And they
Yes.
can be as silly or as,
Yeah.
woo-woo is whatever
So
you
another one is dancing and singing around my office.
want.
I just turn on the music, much to my family's chagrin, and sing out loud and dance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a great singer and not a great dancer, but it doesn't matter. It's a movement in my body, so that's one. And I would probably put that into an overarching like movement. Getting sweaty, moving my body helps me tap into that confidence. The other is going outside
Mm-hmm.
and just being recharged literally by the sun. I can just stand there and, maybe take like the power pose, but just stand there and be there. The other is honestly calling my dad.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right. And we don't even have to talk about anything in particular, but just calling and, having him and really either one of my parents, but in particular, I'm gonna get in trouble. I
Yeah.
mean, this isn't a surprise, right? But that idea of just being heard and being seen by that one person who you knows believes in you no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
to me. And I'm going to give you four. It would be the same with my daughter, right? Just because she's this cheerleader for me. So sometimes even just thinking about that helps me. So those would be the three things.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. What's something I haven't asked you about yet? What do you want to talk about? Share something. Share something you're passionate about,
Oh my
something you're
goodness.
working on.
So let's see. Something that I'm passionate about right now is my infrared sauna. How's that? You're like,
More.
wait,
I
what?
was not expecting that answer. I
Yeah,
love
you're
that.
like, no. Total random side note. Something that I'm loving right now, and it goes to that place of, one of the things that I think when we claim something is the detoxification of all the other things. And
Yes.
so the act of sweating
Yes.
has been a nurturing practice. So it's just that idea of what needs to be sweated out. Is that even a thing? But the other thing that I'm just so excited about is my Thrive Unleash group that is starting soon. This is a 6-month program that is the culmination of a lot of various year-long group programs, virtual group programs, and is this next step in my client's journey, and is a 6-month experience to really unleash all the thriving that is within you, to get even clearer and really allow anything to be possible so that
That's
you can say
amazing.
hot damn all the time.
Hey, if you want to say hot damn all the time, when does it start? I believe it's January 5th. Did I make that up?
It starts on Friday, January 8th, I
Friday,
think.
January 8th. Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
And there are retreats that are included. It's a fabulous group of women that's already assembled, and I would love to chat with anybody, but I'm so excited about it and the future iterations of it,
That's
because
awesome.
it will continue.
Yeah. So if people are interested in all things thriving, hot damn, sunrise in your pocket, claiming feelings, whatever it is, between lipstick, a leopard jacket, or whatever that is, what are some other ways people can get in touch with you?
Yeah.
Tell them all the ways and all the things.
The best ways are to join the Live Your Sunrise Facebook group, where we have daily conversations, inspiration, motivation, and overall
You do have
fun.
good posts. I will say that. Yes, they're very
Thank you.
delightful. You do
Thank
embody
you.
delight in all the ways. So if you need some
I
delight,
Thank you. Thank
yes.
you. And then the Sunrise in Your Pocket podcast would be a great place to start to get to know me and my goofiness, because this is real.
I love
It just is.
I love it. So let's close on one thing, because a lot of you guys know out there that the Enneagram is something that I'm super passionate about, and you mentioned it. So I would love for us just to close on this quick. What has learning that you are an Enneagram 8 taught you? What has been your aha?
It has, I think, empowered me to claim that part of myself and to see where that desire, and I really attribute the core value of freedom to my Enneagram 8-ness, right? Where it shows up and how important it is for me to nurture it and pay attention to all the various things. And so that's the piece. I think it's empowered me to really kind of claim that aspect of myself.
I love it. Enneagram 8s have a tremendous amount of personal power. Like you said earlier, you don't necessarily want to be controlled, so that freedom. But I think sometimes, just claiming that and owning that helps you put that energy into the universe, and it just gives you so much personal power to get things done and accomplish what you want, not only for yourself but even for other people, which is why it's such a great gift to the world. So thank you so much for being part of Clarity and Confidence TV. And if anybody wants to follow Elena, I promise you it is like a daily dose of delight. So whether you are interested in her Thrive Unleashed, which is starting very soon, or you just want to follow her podcast, get in touch with her on social media, I promise you it'll be a delightful experience. So Elena, thank you so much for joining me, and we will see everybody again soon here on Clarity and Confidence TV or somewhere on social media.
Thank you,
you.
Kelli, so much.
Bye.